If you've ever been forced to put up with someone's rude behavior just because it's easier than causing a scene, you'll feel this one deep in your soul. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around, because the revenge I pulled off in the sky might just be the pettiest masterpiece you'll hear all week. This happened on the first leg of a long trip. I was flying solo, and like any seasoned traveler, I got to the gate early and pre-boarded the flight. The cabin was still quiet, not quite full yet. I found the perfect seat, ***, a window seat, ***, toward the front. Clean view, good legroom, and no one crowding me. I tucked my small carry-on into the overhead bin and settled in. Felt like I'd won the seat lottery. But you know what they say, peace never lasts long when you're surrounded by people who think the world owes them something. A few minutes later, a mother and her 2 elementary-aged kids also pre-boarded. She slid into the row directly behind me with both kids in tow, each dragging their knapsack-sized carry-ons and already tapping away on handheld gaming devices. They looked harmless enough, until she locked eyes with me. There was something loaded in her gaze, like a question, already half an accusation. Then she said it. "Excuse me, would you mind giving up your window seat, so both my kids can have a view?" No hi. No please. Just expectation. My first instinct was confusion, then mild disbelief, then that creeping frustration that anyone who's dealt with an entitled person knows all too well. "No, sorry. I'd like to keep my seat." She rolled her eyes and let out an exaggerated sigh, like I just told her I wouldn't donate my kidney to her son. But I held my ground, because it was open seating and I'd been proactive. I boarded early. I got my seat fair and square. This wasn't about generosity, it was about entitlement. The plane began filling up. Boarding announcements buzzed overhead. A few more families squeezed through the aisle, and then he arrived. The father. He was tall, built like a refrigerator with a scowl, and walked straight to the row I was in. He didn't say hi, didn't even acknowledge me. He just looked at his wife and then loudly asked, "Why aren't both the kids in window seats?" It wasn't a question, it was a performance. A not-so-subtle jab launched right over my shoulder. I said nothing, just kept my gaze fixed out the window. Because seriously, if the window was such a big deal, why didn't he pre-board with one of the kids and grab a seat? But instead, he squeezed into the aisle seat of my row. The center seat stayed open, but I suddenly felt boxed in, flanked by hostility on all sides. Takeoff came. The cabin dimmed. And just as I started to relax, the kicking started. Light taps at first, then harder, repetitive, annoying, relentless. I shifted, adjusted, tried to ignore it. Then came the first ask. "Hey, could you please have your kid stop kicking my seat?" Nothing. A few minutes later, I turned again, louder this time, cutting through the drone of the engines. "Please tell your kid to stop kicking my seat." Finally, the father turned and said, "If you had just given up the window seat, he wouldn't have to kick it." My blood ran hot. I looked over my shoulder at the mom. She was staring blankly at the seat in front of her. Checked out. Useless. It was clear. This was coordinated. This wasn't about a kid being restless. This was a grown man encouraging his son to harass me because I didn't cave to his wife's passive-aggressive seating demands. A flight attendant noticed the commotion. She walked over and politely asked the kid to stop. For a few blessed minutes, silence. And then kick. Again. Again. Each time the same dance. Asterisk I complain. Asterisk dad would smirk or say nothing. Asterisk the attendant would intervene. Asterisk the kid would pause. Asterisk then kick. The whole flight became a cycle of passive-aggressive warfare at 35,000 feet. And I thought, asterisk I could get angry. I could yell. I could demand they be moved. Asterisk. But instead, I smiled. Because while they were focused on making my flight miserable, I was planning something better. I kept my cool the entire flight. Forced smiles, deep breaths, little shifts in my seat just to throw off the kids' rhythm. Anything to hold on until landing. And then, a beautiful opportunity presented itself. Over the intercom, "If anyone has a connecting flight leaving in less than an hour, please raise your hand so we can prioritize your exit." I glanced around. The kicker family didn't raise a hand. They were staying on the plane. Me? I raised my hand, high, clear, confident. Truth is, I had a 3-hour layover and was meeting friends during the break. But they didn't know that. We landed, taxied to the gate. I stood up quickly and made a show of it, glancing at my watch, sighing dramatically, as if I was barely going to make my connecting flight. But of course, Mr. Kicker, he didn't budge. He just sat there in the aisle seat, arms crossed, legs spread like a sentry guarding the row. He wanted me to squeeze past him, wanted to be an obstacle one more time before I left. So I waited, let a few people pass, looked impatient, then finally stood up to grab my bag. That's when the moment came. Their carry-on bags, asterisk asterisk, the kids' knapsacks, asterisk asterisk, were stuffed right next to mine in the overhead bin. I could have just grabbed my bag and gone, but I didn't. Instead, I pretended to have trouble finding it, moved things around, shifted their bags, unzipped both just a little. Not enough to be obvious, just enough. Because if you've ever handled an overstuffed knapsack, you know this. Once it's unzipped, even a little, it's a ticking time bomb. The moment they grab those bags in a hurry, snack wrappers, chargers, game consoles, possibly even clothing, would come tumbling out like confetti. On the floor, in the aisle, in front of everyone. And I'd be long gone. Hashtag collision F, climactic revenge payoff. I grabbed my small carry-on, turned toward the exit, and offered a casual, "Excuse me," as I slid past Mr. Kicker's deliberately unmoving legs. Didn't wait for a response. Didn't even look back. Because the best part of this revenge, I never had to see it happen. I got to imagine the chaos, the grumbles, the dad scrambling to shove items back in the bags while the plane emptied. And I got to walk off that flight knowing they spent an entire hour trying to make me miserable. And I ruined their day with one smooth, silent move. The lesson? Don't mistake kindness for weakness. You never know when the quiet person in seat 14A is planning to outsmart your petty-powered trip at 500 miles per hour. Sometimes, revenge isn't loud. Sometimes, it's quiet, calculated, and utterly satisfying. If this story gave you chills, or made you laugh at just how sweet karma can taste, hit that like button and drop a comment below. What's the most satisfying petty revenge you've ever seen or pulled off? And don't forget to subscribe for more tales of karma, chaos, and cold-blooded payback. Until next time, fly safe and stay salty.